My name is Jessica Brito. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I work as a psychotherapist. Today, I wanted to talk about a topic that honestly brings me so much passion and joy, and the reason why I became a therapist. I really wanted to help people find their strength and their resilience. So I want to talk a little bit about awareness of self. What does that mean? What does it look like? And how do we kind of get there? What I tell people is that it's really important to know who you are at 100% so that no one could ever tell you who you are again, right? I think in my own experience, my own lived experience, living in a wheelchair, I had a car accident in 2010. And when you get a new illness diagnosis or mental health diagnosis, anything like that, doctors, professionals, everyone is going to tell you what you can and can't do, what and who you are at this point. And that was really hard for me. So when I decided to start my private practice, I started looking at all my clients and what they all had in common, whether they had a disability, a chronic illness, anxiety, depression, PTSD, bipolar disorder. I was trying to figure out, what do they all have in common? And it's this feeling of loss of control. And it really made me think to myself, what has worked for me as a therapist and what has worked for my clients? And I say that all my clients come back saying the exact same thing. You helped me get to a point where I was just completely aware of who I was, what I wanted, what I needed to change, and really the strengths that I possess. So I decided to call my practice Take Control Therapeutic Services. And my focus has always been to help my clients find that strength and resilience. It's really about taking a look in the mirror, really seeing who's the person in there. A lot of times we don't realize that a lot of what we tell ourselves is not us. It is a little voice inside our head that developed at an age where we couldn't even come up with our own thoughts. And sitting with my clients, sitting in therapy, we really focused on exploring what that little voice was telling them and about the world, and really saying, okay, is that really something you believe? Is that really who you think you are? And we started exploring the reality, right? And the reality was that we have a lot of strength. We have a lot of resilience, even when there's a lot of areas for growth. And the more we started understanding and growing awareness of who we are and how we function and what we want, the more control we gain, right? So how do we find this person in the mirror? How do we figure out who we are internally? First, it's awareness, and that is really being in the present moment. A lot of times you hear about mindfulness, meditation, yoga, all these big grand things on how to dig deep. And a lot of times we think okay, that's not my thing. And I can understand that, right? I have ADHD, and for me, sitting in the moment was really hard. So I started all my clients with 3 minutes of mindfulness. What does that mean? You go on YouTube and you find 3-minute videos on meditation and you do them, just 3 minutes. And that's the beginning of that exploration. Learning to spend time with yourself. And maybe that time can only be 5 minutes. Maybe it can only be 3, maybe it can only be 10. But as you start looking inward, you become more grounded and more aware of, okay, I've said that I believe in this, but where did I learn that? And now that I'm really looking at it, do I really believe that? And it's no, I don't, right? Or we have a negative thought about ourselves. I'm a bad person. Okay, well, what are all the qualities of a bad person? And then you're wait a second, I don't have the qualities that I believe a bad person has. So where did that come from, right? And you slowly start asking yourself these questions because you're spending more and more time alone. And as you spend time with yourself, you start finding these things out. For a lot of people, it might mean therapy. It might mean sitting with another brain and just bouncing these ideas off of them, right? They're a neutral party. They don't know you. They don't know your people, but they'll get to know your story. And they will be honest and they'll say, you know what? here are 20 beautiful qualities about you, but here are 3 things that you don't believe in, that you've been doing and that you've been living. So is this how you want to keep living? Because then there's this contradiction of, okay, this is what I believe in, but this is what I've been doing. And that's the benefits of having a therapist sit with you and really go through some of these ideas, beliefs, and thoughts. Really exploring that person in the mirror and finding an objective person that can actually help guide you can be priceless. So that is the way we start the process. Awareness, then talking to someone. Maybe you don't want to go to therapy, and I get that. Maybe you can find a support group. Maybe you can find a group of women or men that you identify with. Maybe you identify a really good friend who's highly objective and who you can bounce some of these ideas off of, right? Like, hey, I've noticed I do this a lot. Do you notice it too? And they might say, no, you've done it twice, right? Where I think I do it all the time. They might be a good resource to just say, wait, so I don't do that, right? You can start by reading books. A lot of times, self-empowerment books, we don't realize that they can be helpful and they might direct you back to therapy. However, they might start getting you to ask these questions to yourself of who am I? And once you really get to a point in your life where you know who you are, good, bad, and ugly, no one can tell you who you are. And in that moment, you just gain so much control. The awareness of knowing who you are is really the first step of changing and making any changes. So taking that time to sit with yourself, to start asking yourself questions, to, bounce it off of other people, whether it's a therapist, a friend, a group of people, or start reading just a lot of what self-empowerment says. I don't think self-empowerment is the only way, but it is a great way to start exploring yourself. Once you get all of that aligned, then it's like I tell people, if someone comes to you and says, you're going to burn in hell, but you don't believe in hell, then would you worry? You might not, right? But if you do believe in hell, then you might start exploring, well, what does this mean for me, right? Same thing with who you are. If someone comes to me and says, you're this, this, and this, but I don't believe any of those things, then will I get mad? Will I get hurt? Will I retract? Will I lash out? Probably not, because it doesn't have anything to do with me. However, you can only get to that point once you really start looking in the mirror. So I think one of the most important things that we can do as people, and what I love doing as a therapist, is helping my clients explore, so that at the end of the day, no one can tell you who you are but you, and what you can and can't do. So these are the tips. Gain awareness, sit with yourself, whether it's meditation, whether it's going on walks, 3 minutes, you can start there to start exploring who you are. Bounce the ideas off to other people. Ask friends, maybe join a support group or join a group of people that you can bounce some of these ideas off of. Third, start reading. Reading can expand your mind and might start teaching you some strategies to learn a little bit more on how to ask these questions of yourself. I hope you guys like this video. If you do, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any other topics or questions that you want to know about, please make sure that you put it down in the comments. And remember, stay mentally healthy.